everyone to Wine Wednesday. Very excited to have you all back. This will be our last Wine Wednesday before the Thanksgiving holiday, and we will return again after that with topics still to be determined between Mary and myself. But as for today's topic, Mary will actually be discussing not wine specifically itself, but exactly what one would have to do to become a sommelier. This is quite a mystery to a lot of people who aren't very familiar with exactly the process that sommeliers go through. So Mary, I know people are really interested and excited to kind of learn about this process and what people have to do to achieve it.
Well, thank you, Christine, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Yes, this is a little bit different a topic. So if I'm not covering I encourage everyone to ask questions. If I'm not covering the part of the topic in which you're interested, please direct your chat to Christine, ask a question, because this is a pretty big topic. First of all, what is a sommelier? You might think of a sommelier as a wine waiter or a wine steward. But like in a kitchen, there's a line cook, and then there's a sous chef or a saucier, and then there's the chef de cuisine. The sommelier is at the level of the chef de cuisine. A wine waiter might be considered the line cook. The wine steward might be considered a sous or a saucier, etc. But a sommelier is considered to be on par with the chef de cuisine. And in fact, traditionally in French restaurants, the sommelier is second only to the chef de cuisine. There are many ways to pronounce this word. I guess depending on from where in France you come. I have heard sommelier. I've heard sommelier. There's a modern pronunciation that Christine used, sommelier, which comes from the abbreviation SAM, the current, Christine is my conduit to the modern world.
So the wine nickname.
Yeah, well, it's the current chic way to refer to a sommelier. Oh, he's the SAM, she's the SAM. But I always say sommelier. That's what I say. There's also, I went online and looked, there was one phonetic sommelier, but I've never heard anyone say sommelier. I've always heard French people say sommelier, or sommelier. Okie doke. It's interesting to me when I go through these lists that a sommelier, the synonym is flunky, which, is not far from the truth very often. At one point, as a matter of fact, this word sommelier, the derivation is sommelier, spelled very similar, which originally meant pack animal, then became the word for the person who drives the pack animal, and then became the steward of a household. So a sommelier was the person who inventoried all the food and drink items in a household. Then along come the 1700s. We start to have restaurants, and remember, restaurant, not restaurant, the root being restore, restaurant. And the sommelier became the person in the restaurant that manages the beverages. Now, today, the duties of a sommelier in a restaurant not only are the wine program, selecting the wines, managing the wine cellar, serving the wines, but also managing the aperitif drinks, which could be distilled, also managing the brandies and other postprandials, so the after dinner drinks, but also managing cigars and different smokes, cigarettes and cigars would be included in the sommelier's responsibility. Now, of course, there became, when the restaurant became really important, when America got rich in the 1950s and 60s, and all of a sudden we were eating in lovely French restaurants, there got to be kind of a stereotype of the sommelier as, kind of a daunting figure, kind of a snobby figure, kind of a disdaining figure. May I suggest something cheap and outdated to compliment the gentleman's coat? And French. Of course, it was very important that the sommelier either was French or sounded French, because that's what everyone was drinking, French wines, maybe a little German wine, but it's hard for us to imagine today that wine lists were French. That was just all the way up until the 80s, wine lists were French. So it was important that the sommelier, if he wasn't French, that he sounded French. And it was very important. There wasn't a question that they would be male. It didn't, there was just never a question. And right now, I want to apologize for our gentlemen who are joining us. I want to apologize that if I was a guy, I would feel kind of put upon these days by all the stuff about, gender stuff. So I apologize to you guys. We're talking about the past, not the present. And thank you for being compassionate with this situation. As I say, there just wasn't a question. Just like a chef, there wasn't a question that the sommelier would be male, until about the 1980s. And we've got the new sommeliers. How do you like that? The new sommeliers. Because for the very first time, as a matter of fact, for the first time, a woman was recognized as a sommelier. Now, of course, just like chef, we have many women sommeliers, we have many women chefs. And so I don't even know how to speak about gender these days. We have very many sommeliers and chefs of all different genders. Let's just say that. Also, what happened, I'm sorry we got off this slideshow thing. What happened? Oh, darn it. Hold it. Stop share. Sorry. What are we doing here? We're doing this.
Mary, what year was that article written?
Do you know, can you believe it? Can you believe it? I didn't save the magazine.
Oh,
Can you believe it? So I'm thinking it was 1992.
Okay.
Somewhere between 1989 and 1992.
Okay.
Do you mind if I keep the format like this?
I'm fine with that. Is everyone good with that?
Thank you, because I'm getting confused. And at this point, still a sommelier was a person who worked in a restaurant, in service table side. As a matter of fact, when I became the second woman to pass the Court of Master Sommeliers advanced sommelier degree, that was the rule. That was the rule, that you had to derive 100% of your income on the floor of a restaurant, serving on the floor of a restaurant. And we will talk about this a little bit later. Slowly, the definition of a sommelier began to change. Education, can you believe it? The idea of wine education was brand new. And I'm very happy that I was at the forefront, along with Kevin Zerali, a wonderful gentleman who had been the cellar master of Windows on the World, a wonderful, wonderful person who came up with the idea, hey, wait a second, let's teach our servers about wine. This was a completely new concept. And that's when I started to divert my career towards education, which took me out of the Master Sommelier program at the time. But I give the Master Sommelier people a tremendous amount of credit. They came into the United States in 1992 when I passed my advanced. One person passed the master, Larry Stone, who also passed the Sommelier du Monde, the best sommelier in the world, given by the French government. But now the Court of Master Sommeliers is a big deal in the United States. It's a big deal all over the world. Now, let me be clear. The United States Department of Labor does not recognize sommelier as a job. This was the case for chef too, until about the early 1960s, late 60s and early 70s. The Department of Labor didn't recognize chef as a career. So today, sommelier is kind of lumped in with waiter. There's no differentiation. And this is kind of a beef of mine, because there's no legal definition in this country what a sommelier is. Any of you, if you want to be a sommelier, call yourself a sommelier and you're a sommelier. Sadly, there are a lot of people out there that call themselves sommeliers. You know, maybe they know a little bit about wine, maybe they don't. But as I say, there's no legal definition in this country. Certainly there is in France, certainly there is in Great Britain, but there is no legal definition in this country, which is one of the reasons that the Master Sommelier, the Court of Master Sommeliers, came to the United States to begin the process of having sommelier recognized as a job in the United States. So the Court of Master Sommeliers has 4 levels. The introductory level, you pay your money, you get your degree. You know, it would be pretty hard to fail at this level. They're just bringing in the cash. But then the levels become exponentially harder. Between introductory and certified is a big jump. Between certified and advanced is an enormous jump. And then between advanced and master is a huge jump. I will say that now you don't have to work at a restaurant at all to take these exams, which we will discuss in a little bit. So anybody who wants to, just, for fun, can sit for these exams. Now, if you want to know what the top level is, here's a brief rundown. Speak with authority on the wine areas of the world. Of course, France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Croatia, but, Bolivia, Croatia. Did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Any place they make wine, you got to be able to discuss it intelligently. Principal grape varieties. Well, the Court of Master Sommelier feels that the principal grape varieties are about 1,000 in number. There are in fact 6,000 known wine grape varieties. We're not talking about Chardonnay, Riesling, Pinot Noir. We're talking about de Rif. We're talking about Uva de Troya. You have to be able to discuss them. International wine laws, fortified wines, distillation, cigars, storage, aperitifs, of course, glassware, menu. Now, the theory part is a written exam. The practical is a practical exam. You go up to a table. There are 4 masters sitting there, and they do whatever they can to get you out of your groove. They fire questions at you. You're given specifically a bottle that people believe the cork is gonna crack. They do everything they can to, as I say, get you out of your groove. You got to decant. Questions and complaints. And then, of course, you've got the tasting exam, which is 8 wines, double blind. In other words, in a carafe. You have no idea whatsoever. Sometimes you get the dread black glass that you can't even see what color the wine is. That's awful. And you have 8 wines. 6 wines. When I took it, it was 8 wines. 6 wines, 25 minutes. When I took it, it was 8 wines, 24 minutes. And in that period of time, you need to identify the grape, the country of origin, the district or sub-district, the vintages, and then you have to, there's a sheet called the Master Sommelier Deductive method that has about 24 different points, and you have to tick off all those 24 different points, and so within 25 minutes. So you're going boom, 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 boom. There's no time to stop and think. But when you're tasting wine, that's good because generally your first impression is correct. Okay, so that's the Master Sommelier. Another, and as I say, that used to be strictly a service degree. It no longer is, but it was intended to be a service degree. Then we have another system, which I like very, very much. And I will say, the Master Sommelier, you don't get any classes. They say, oh, yes, you get classes, but basically the classes are, you need to know 1,000 grapes, and that's the class. You have 2 hours of classes in front of your exam. So the class is really just telling you what you're going to need to know if you didn't know it already. But the Wine and Spirits Education Trust is a different deal altogether. And I like this group very much because they have classes. This is a training program for the top of the heap, the Master of Wine, which we're going to talk about later. This is the curriculum you go in to prepare for the Master of Wine. And these are the different units: wine production, wine business. So here we're talking about businesses. We're talking about importation laws. We're talking about tariffs. We're talking about boycotts. We're talking about, what is the tier of business in Greece? How do you get a bottle of wine from a producer in Greece to a restaurant in Greece? So it's very, very much more focused on business. Then you'll go into sparkling wines, fortified wines, wines of the world, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have an independent research assignment of 3,000 words. And all of these are supported by mandatory classes, which are given, they used to be given in person. I think now they're given online. They are given by someone who has passed the top level. I think there are 5 levels of WSET, and the classes are taught by a person who has achieved the top level. I very much like this. I kind of think I should have gone into this system as opposed to the Master Sommelier system, which we might also discuss a little bit later too. And then, look, here we have the Kendall College Wine Professional Program. Yay!
A great program.
A great program. Do professors, do employees of Kendall get discounts if they?
Yes, employees and students of Kendall do get discounts on all of our recreational classes, including the Wine Professional Program.
But I understand this term, it's put on hold a little.
We don't have our next, we have a class that's in session currently, but we do not have a next date scheduled at the moment. So the next Wine Professional Level 1 will probably be sometime in 2021, but I don't have a set date at this moment.
Yeah. And boy, oh boy, these wines are something. They are beautiful wines that John has selected. Really, really beautiful wine. So if you want more information on this 26-week course, if you want more information on this, you know who to go to.
That would be me.
That would be Christine.
Yeah, and that would be the level 3, which we do require you take level 1 and level 2 before you go to level 3. You will need those in order to get to that point.
And there's a service component, is there not?
There is, yes. Which makes some people very nervous, especially anyone who is not in the service industry that decides to take this program. But it's nothing to fret about. It's actually one of the really enjoyable things to learn. It gives you a new appreciation for people who work in the service industry as well.
Yeah. Okay, and then we go to the top of the heap, the Institute of Masters of Wine. There are fewer living masters of wine than there have been astronauts. It's a very stringent and rigorous program. You can see stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 5-day residential seminar. You go somewhere and you have 5 intense days of study for non-residential courses, up to 6 pieces of work. So these are research papers. Then stage 2, 5 papers on viticulture, vinification, et cetera, 3 12 blind tastings. You know, this, as I say, this is the top of the heap. And then once you, first of all, you have to be admitted. Not everyone is admitted. I don't know what percentage of people are admitted, but a small percentage of people are admitted. Then you go through stage 1 if you pass, then you go to stage 2 if you pass. Then stage 3 is a research paper, 6,000 to 10,000 words. You have 8 years in which to pass this degree. You're allowed 3 failures and you have 8 years. And if you know the people that I know who have been engaged in this system, this is like going to medical school. This is intense. But what this would do would be prepare you to be an importer. This is really a business degree. This is for importers, distributors, people who want to run Chateau Lafite, people, you know, the régisseur of Chateau Lafite, you know, people who want to be authors. Jancis Robinson, one of the most respected authors about wine in the world, was one of the first female masters of wine. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. The people that I know who've taken this, like I say, it's like going through law school or medical school. Now, you know, kind of back to the service component, we were talking about the knowledge. I didn't mention the physical requirements. You know, a case of wine is 40 pounds, a case of sparkling wine is 50 to 60 pounds. And if you have an active, oh, I should mention, you know, if you have a wine list, here was my wine list. Here was my wine list that I became the first woman to receive the Wine Spectator's Grand Award of Excellence. If you have a wine list with 500 selections and you're busy, you know, you're stocking 20 to 50 to 100 cases of wine a day times 40 pounds, standing on your feet in a restaurant. We weren't talking about the service component, the psychological demands of, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what people want. And we weren't talking about the business component, you know, making sure your cellar is on target to be profitable. What's your gross profit? What's your profit margin? Staying ahead of trends. Managing the cellar, putting in orders, dealing with salespeople, dealing with teamsters, dealing with truck drivers. We didn't talk about any of that. We've just been discussing the knowledge. Now, if you don't want to go through any of these systems, you can certainly do it yourself. When I sat the advanced, there weren't wine classes. What's a wine class? You know, there was one place called the Chicago Wine School. I'd already taken all those classes. The Master Sommelier, they didn't tell us, it was their first year. They didn't tell us what we had to know. So what I did is I got this book, The Oxford Companion of Wine. Here it is. And I read it. And that's something you can do. Get a really good wine book. And I would suggest The Oxford Companion of Wine, compiled and edited by Jancis Robinson. Believe it or not, it's a fun read. It's well written. Get a new copy, because of course mine is so out of date. It doesn't even talk about, Australia has about 2 paragraphs. Things change. So if you really, really want to get a fantastic wine book to start your sommelier knowledge, I would suggest this one. Another very popular wine book. Here's Kevin Zraly. Like I say, I cannot say enough about this guy. This guy, I don't think anybody, I don't think you could find any, he's probably one of the most influential people of my generation in the wine business in the world. And you would never hear anybody say anything bad about this guy. He's golden. He's solid gold. And this is his book. It's a little more casual than I like, but I recommend it. Then this guy, Hugh Johnson, I think Hugh Johnson is kind of retiring. This is a wonderful book, The Modern Encyclopedia of Wine. He also has a modern atlas of wine, but I prefer the Modern Encyclopedia of Wine. And once again, get a new copy because things change. And then, of course, oh, sorry. I don't know if you can see this click to add title. I don't know. I'm sorry. Can I get rid of it? Well, I won't bother. So that's the mind. As much as I've been talking about knowledge, at least that much is tasting. And this is kind of why I say to people, if you want to be a sommelier, you got to get a job in the wine business, because tasting gets to be very expensive. I know that one of the reasons I was able to pass the advanced in only 1 year is because I was running the most important wine restaurant in the Midwest. I saw 5 to 6 salespeople almost every day of the week, and I required them to bring the samples in brown bag. So for a year before I sat the exam, I tasted at least 30 wines every single day during the week. And then at home, I would taste at least 6 wines every day. You have to taste. It's like playing the piano. If you do it every day, you get better. If you don't do it every day, you don't get better. But this gets to be expensive. But you have to taste every single day. Now, then we come to this kind of area. Sommeliers, when the Court of Master Sommeliers came to the United States, they said that their mission was to make the career of sommeliers inclusive, non-exclusive, make it a big tent, make it an acceptable career for everybody. More power to the United States court. They started to attach money to it. And as I say, more power to them. They really advertise the degree Master Sommelier with a price tag. Master sommeliers the average makes this kind of money. Not on the floor of a restaurant. No, not on the floor of a restaurant. Consulting, working for importers, working for distributors, etc. which was, as I say, not allowed when I was in the system. If you want, and so, I'm a little uncomfortable with this, but the sommeliers have become kind of the rock stars of the culinary world. And this movie, Somm, kind of helped do it. So if you want to see kind of a modern take on sitting for the Master Sommelier exam, this would be a resource for you. Well, I hope we're going to have questions, but before that, I want to remind everyone what Benjamin Franklin said: wine is constant proof that God loves us and loves to see us happy. And I want to wish everyone here today happiness, good wine, and good health through your holidays.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary.
My pleasure.
Does anyone have any questions for Mary at all? Please feel free to open up your mics and ask.
Did that answer the questions that people, because I think someone recommended this topic, and I hope that answered some questions.
Yeah, did people feel like they're coming away with some more knowledge about what it is to become a somm and a little bit more of how it's kind of defined and everything? Yeah, good. I got a thumbs up from the person who requested it, so.
Oh, good. I will say, when we open back up, the wine industry is one of the most generous industries in terms of education. And one good way to solve this tasting problem, from like late August through early October, and then again May and June, every wine company in the world starts a dog and pony show. And there are big, huge tastings, there's small tastings, there's gathered tastings, and you can go if you know the right person. Ding, ding, ding. If you know someone who's invited to all tastings, and you do, some of these tastings are, you could be tasting $5,000 worth of wine, or some are big parties, but that can in some way assuage the cost of your tasting.
Yes.
Mary, how do you even start to develop like that, I guess, for like a dictionary of taste? How long did it take you to start to be able to distinguish between where this Sauvignon Blanc is grown versus this one versus that one?
Deborah, I'll tell you, as I say, I had this job, I had a job, and I was tasting, and I was just tasting. And then I was very lucky to be in a tasting group. It was called the Women's Wine Group. We're 5 women in the wine business in Chicago at the time. And I was lucky enough to be invited into this group. And I remember I'd been in the wine business maybe 2 or 3 years. And I remember, Deborah, I tasted a wine and I got it. It was a very simple wine. It was Beaulieu Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc. And I had the aha moment. I get it. It's a grape grown in a place, acted upon by certain cultures. And now I grew up in a wine household. I visited vineyards all my life, but it took me about 2 or 3 years to really get that aha moment. maybe now, and certainly you have more of an understanding of wine than I did. You know, I just got the job. I didn't know anything about wine. I just got the job. You have an understanding of wine. So maybe it will be faster for you. But again, the problem is you've got to taste every single day.
Right.
You know, you got, get a bottle, get a book, literally bottle, book, or bottle. And remember, we didn't have internet, we had books. Oh, Brilly. Look it up. Where is Brilly? What is the grape? What is the soil type? What is the climate? What are the techniques? Who makes Brilly? It's like, taste, read, taste, read, taste, read. And the difficulty is, kind of, you got to do it every day.
No, and in the wine professional program, what John really stresses and teaches, especially in level 1, is that, it's very hard the first week because nobody really has a wine vocabulary going on in their head. Not necessarily as far as the actual words that you would find in the dictionary, but as the aromas and flavors, and be able to read with your nose, read with your tongue, and kind of be able to interpret those. And so you kind of have to train your senses to heighten them, get used to experiencing these things. And as you start putting some of those aromas and flavors together and learning more about the different ways that they can connect and be hints and guides to what type of wine, where it's from, what the terroir is like, all of that, it starts to it's like puzzle pieces, putting it together and everything. So, and I know John, he has a daughter, and he'll have her smell things and be like, tell me this. It's like he's been training her nose for years. So, but yeah.
It's just so overwhelming. It really is.
It is overwhelming, seriously.
What a person could do, Deborah, is not, the world of wine. Maybe start with one region, the Willamette Valley. Start with a tiny little region. Like I say, like the Willamette Valley, the Russian River Valley, Champagne, Nausa, Greece. Start with something small that you can get your sea legs, so to speak. It's like playing the itsy bitsy spider on a piano. Don't start with the world. Start small.
So you're suggesting that, okay, so you pick a region and then just all the wines in that region?
You could do that way.
Or do like varietals, like maybe do all, reds in California, or all.
That'd be too big. That'd be too much.
Yeah, that's too big.
Too much.
If you were gonna do something like that, it'd be like, do Cabernets, then focus it down, and you'll see some of the differences between the different areas.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what I do now. Like, I know what kind of Pinot Noir I like, so I'm like, oh, that's, and I don't think I could do it just by tasting, but yeah, I know I like more with Oregon, Washington State Pinot versus a California.
Not Washington State, Oregon.
Oregon. Well, I like more Oregon more.
Yeah.
But even at that, I prefer Washington State over California. I have a hard time with that, but I mean, at least doing that. So, okay, I'm on the right track.
You're on the right track. Now, another thing that I would suggest is taste more, once again, this gets to be expensive. Taste more than one or two, if you could possibly get a group together.
Yeah.
That experience was, sorry.
Not now, but
yeah. Because then you can share the cost, but it's important to taste more than one wine at a time. Here's my analogy. You go to the dress shop, you see a blouse. Oh, this blouse is going to be perfect with the slacks I have at home. You bring the blouse home. It's nothing at all like this. You need to you know, so for instance, Oregon, get a Pinot Noir from the Willamette, get a Pinot Noir from the Rogue Valley, and taste them side by side.
Mhm.
Now, another thing we forgot is note taking, because you will not remember. And to develop a system, I have notes from 20 years ago. I can go back and I know what the wine tasted like because I had a system. So to develop a system of taking notes is another very important thing.
Mhm. And there's like certain points that you kind of want to identify when you're tasting the wine and everything.
So when you're describing the wine, are you focused, because I've heard different things. Some will focus just on foods, like it has this a food flavor, versus other sommeliers may say, well, this is like wet grass, or this is like charred wood. So what's your preferred method of describing? Do you stick to just a certain type of description, being like whatever it is, if it's food or if it's elements or?
Well, if you're in an educational situation, you need to describe the appearance,
Mhm,
the aroma bouquet, which are two different things,
mhm.
the flavor, which includes texture, and the finish. You must, for all those points, the face of the wine, aroma and bouquet. Aroma is the smell of the fruit. The bouquet is if there's anything else added to the fruit, like a bouquet of, as a bouquet of flowers is many different aromas. First, you've got to smell the aroma of the fruit. Then you have to smell the bouquet. In the mouth, you need to discuss the alcohol, the specific flavors, the texture. Now, if you're table side, that's something different.
Mhm.
If you're in an educational and for your own education, you must hit at least those four topics: appearance, aroma bouquet, flavor, and finish.
Great, makes sense.
Mhm. And you have to do it the same time every time. That's another thing. It's like, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So you have to do it. I mean, this is why, you see sommeliers, and we're doing this to our water because we're so, everything we taste it exactly the same way. No matter if we've already tasted 200 wines and we're, falling over. You get the muscle memory that you taste it the same way every single time.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about all the courses, different levels of sommelier, how much are we talking about to take a course like that?
It's expensive. For instance, the master sommelier exam is over $3,000. That doesn't include getting to the exam. They're not held in Chicago always. You have to get to, maybe they're in Los Angeles, maybe they're in New York City. That doesn't include your hotel stay. The Master of Wine, I think level 2 is like $8,000. It's not cheap. This is another, this was a terrible thing a couple of years ago when the court, it was proven that people were cheating. And, once again, cheating. Well, why are people cheating? It's not for knowledge. It's because they're going to make a lot of money. I mean, this is kind of why I stepped out of the system. I was uncomfortable with the emphasis on the money. So 8 people sat the exam. it was found that 2 people were cheating, but all 8 were disqualified. That's a lot of money. Now, I think there was some sort of compromise. I think the 2 that were caught cheating can never sit the exam again. And the other 6 can sit the exam. And I think they don't have to pay for the exam, but they got to pay to get to Los Angeles, for instance. They got to pay for the hotel rooms, for instance. They got to pay to eat, for instance. So it is not inexpensive, Asaf.
What about the introductory course?
The introduction is, you know, maybe $1,000. And as I say, you pay your money for the court, you pay your money, you get your degree. It's a come on, you know, they want to get you in. So it's not free. And once again, I was extremely lucky. First of all, it wasn't nearly as expensive the first year, not nearly as expensive. And I was working for a big corporation, and, you know, I was very, very lucky that they paid for it. They paid for everything. So, you know, I was in the right place at the right time, I guess.
And then our wine professional program, the level 1 course, which is a 6-week course, is a $775 cost, which includes all the wines you taste.
Wow.
1 evening where there is food and wine pairings. And when I say food and wine pairings, it's not like 3, it's like 12 courses that you taste with wine. It's a hearty number. So I always tell everyone, don't eat dinner. This is your dinner. As a NLU employee, you would have a discount of 15% for that course if you had interest in taking it. The level 2 is a longer term with a higher price point, as is the level 3. So it increases, but they are relatively on point with the same amount of pricing per week, et cetera, et cetera.
And knowing the wines, that's a tremendous value.
It's a great value because those wines are fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we had another question come in. So I'm actually I've heard about the film Somm, but I've never seen it. And so someone asked, is it actually a documentary?
It's a documentary. It's very sexed up, you know, it's very sexed up. You know, when I sat the exam, it was just like, you know, 4 guys and me in a Monterey hotel room, you know, terrified, you know, going through our book, you know, what's this? But now, you know, they added Hollywood to it. It's gotten very, you know, very fancy, but it is a documentary, and, you know, you'll get a good idea.
So I have a strange question for you. So when you sat your exam, were your judges smoking at the table at all?
Very interesting. I don't remember that, but it would not be, now, of course, remember how long ago it was.
This is why I was curious.
People could smoke in restaurants then.
Yeah.
I do not remember that.
Because that would definitely affect your performance as well.
Oh, you mean during the tasting?
During the tasting, yeah. Were people smoking at all during anything, or?
No. I don't think anybody would smoke during the, no.
Okay.
It's I mean, sometimes you're literally in a sensory deprivation room. I mean, sensory deprivation room. So I don't think, now, you know.
During your service, maybe?
I don't remember that, but possible. And possibly some of them were smokers. And believe me, I was too terrified. I was not even thinking about it. Yeah.
So Deb Bosco also recommended the movie Uncorked as well. So I have to add some things and see if they're on Netflix and add them to my queue.
Is that The Judgment in Paris, Deborah? Uncorked?
You're on mute, Deb. Deb, you're on mute.
Deborah? Yeah.
Okay.
There you
No,
go.
it's a drama. It's a 2020 movie. It's a Netflix movie, and it's about a young guy works in a wine shop, and his dad wants him to take over the business, but he really wants to be a sommelier. And so they talk about his journey, and he actually had to go. I think he went to France. A small
Ooh.
became friend. It's good. I mean, it was really. I started at the start of this pandemic, so it was really good. It's a nice
Oh.
story. So yeah, it's not, but it's a lot of things that you mentioned, Mary, seem to be in that movie. And it's a nice movie to watch. So
I'm gonna look it up.
Netflix, yeah, it's good. It's like just under 2 hours, but it's a good movie.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for the recommendation. We always appreciate that.
So I have a hypothetical question.
Yes.
So you finish the Kendall program, the first, the second, and the third, and you get your wine professional certificate or whatever you get. So what would a person do with that? Does that add a lot of weight on their resume if they're looking to get a job in the wine industry or something? I mean, where would you go after you did that? You got your wine professional, you finished the program at Kendall, then where would you go as far as your career? What would your next step be?
Well, this is something else that I really, Christine, do you want to take this or do you want me to take it?
Well, you can definitely give more examples than I can, but there are so many different directions that people can go after obtaining something like that. Definitely they could go and they could work in a restaurant. They could open their own restaurant. We have a level 3 graduate who has her own restaurant open and operating right now. I'm going to give a little shout out to Uwe in Andersonville. Fantastic wine list, and the food is amazing too. So definitely there's that kind of a route. You can go into anything affiliated with the wine industry, into importing, distribution. You can go work retail. You can open up a retail shop. With our graduates, I do have employers coming to me for verification that they are graduates of the program and what level they have achieved before. So it is something that employers, if it is put on a resume, which I would recommend if that's the industry you're in, to put it on your resume, but they do follow up and check for approval on that.
Well, it's recognized as something that's worth having, both from the employee end of it and the employer end of it, then, if they're double checking.
Yeah, and in fact, there was one person who got a new position in a I don't believe she had a position in the wine field before, but was a graduate of it and got hired during the pandemic. And they were so impressed with her skills that they moved her to a more desirable location of their business, which with more activity and higher rated clientele. So people are going to be making larger and more expensive purchases.
I'll say this is something else the Court of Master Sommelier, many people now require some sort of certification, which is a good thing. Now, if you want to make money, if somebody wants to make some money, you want to go work for a distributor. It's not romantic. It's not. A lot of times it's not fun. You're stocking shelves, but that's where you're going to end up making money. I would suggest if you want to learn about wine, a person would try to get a job at a wine shop. Binny's is always looking. You could start at someplace like a Binny's. If it doesn't appeal to you, you always want to work through a holiday season. You got to get through the holidays and then maybe start casting around for a small little wine shop. Being a sommelier, being a sommelier means you're on your feet. New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
you just, and it's fun if you're that kind of a person.
Right.
It became not fun for me. So, yeah,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
All right. Well, I think that should wrap it up for today. This has been great. We have a lot of great questions at the end here as well. So as I said, we will not be meeting for Wine Wednesday next week, but tomorrow we have Thirsty Thursday, where John will be making a cocktail meant to pair with Thanksgiving. And I hope to see you all there. And if you have any topics that you're interested in seeing during December or heading into the new year, start thinking of the next holidays that are coming up and stuff, please shoot me an email at taste@nl.edu. And I think that's it for this evening. Mary, anything else?
That's all from me. Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
Too. Happy
Okay,
Thanksgiving.
bye,
Bye,
folks.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.